Welcome back to Past the Pumpkin's Glow. There's a peculiar dread in the distance, isn't there? Out on those long highways that stretch into nothing. Windows down, music loud, but every shadow past the headlights feels like it's watching. Every roadside motel feels too quiet. And if you've ever felt that strange chill just before a wrong turn, you're not alone, traveler. You're just one of many who've left the safety of home and found something far worse waiting out on the road. Let's hit the desert highway with Rook, a shortcut through the Mojave that turns from sunburned silence to a nightmare you don't outrun.
Bone White, submitted by Rook. The air conditioning in the ancient sedan had given up somewhere around Barstow, wheezing its last gasp with a sigh of metallic resignation. Now, hours later, the silence inside the car was thick and heavy, broken only by the drone of tires on sun-softened asphalt and my own occasional tense drumming of fingers on the steering wheel. Outside, the Mojave, unfurled in brutal, indifferent shades of ochre and bleached bone under a sky the color of a bruise. Heat shimmered off the road ahead, turning distant shapes into wavering, uncertain things. I glanced over at Pip. Just a nickname, don't ask. She was staring out the passenger window, watching the landscape slide by. Jagged peaks clawed at the horizon, looking like teeth of some ancient slumbering beast. I could feel the emptiness starting to press in on us, a physical weight behind my eyes. We hadn't seen another car for nearly an hour. I insisted on the shortcut, a thin red line snaking across our paper map, promising to shave hours off the drive to Vegas. Now it felt less like a shortcut and more like driving off the edge of the world. "Maybe we should have just stuck to the interstate," Pip said, her voice raspy from the dry air. I didn't look at her, my eyes fixed on the shimmering road. "This is fine. Saves time." My tone was clipped, defensive. The heat was fraying us both. That's when I heard it. Not the sharp crack of a rock hitting metal, nor the familiar hiss of a puncture. It was a wet, sickening thump squelch, followed immediately by a violent shudder that ran through the car's frame. The steering wheel jerked in my hands, and the rear passenger side tire blew with a cannon-like report that echoed in the vast silence. I wrestled the car to the shoulder, gravel crunching and spitting under the remaining tires. I killed the engine. The sudden quiet was immense, absolute. Only the faint tink-tink of cooling metal broke it. "Damn it!" I slammed my palm against the wheel. Took a deep breath, trying to regain control. Okay, just a flat. We have a spare." I got out, the wave of heat hitting me like a physical blow. Pip followed, shielding her eyes against the blinding sun. The air smelled of dust, hot rubber, and something else. Something faint, cloying, like overripe fruit mixed with copper. I stared at the ruined tire, my face suddenly cold despite the heat. It wasn't just flat. It was shredded, mangled beyond recognition. But it was what was in the tire, tangled in the ripped rubber and exposed steel belts that made my stomach clench. Dark, sinewy fibers glistening wetly clung to the wreckage. Embedded deep within the gash was a shard of something bone white, curved like a piece of rib, but thicker, somehow denser. It looked disturbingly organic. What the hell is that?" Pip whispered, pulling the collar of her shirt over her nose against the faint, sickly sweet smell. I nudged the debris gingerly with the toe of my boot. Flies appearing seemingly from nowhere began to buzz erratically around the tire. "I don't know, roadkill? Some big bird?" But my voice lacked conviction. It didn't look like any roadkill I'd ever seen. I checked my phone, hopeless. Nothing, not a single bar. Pip checked hers, same result. We were utterly alone, miles from the last dusty town, miles from the next supposed turnoff. The sun beat down relentlessly. "Okay," I said, forcing decisiveness into my voice. "Trunk, spare, jack." The trunk yielded a donut spare, a rusty jack, and a tire iron. But as I struggled with the lug nuts, frozen tight with rust and heat, the situation worsened. The jack, old and poorly maintained, slipped on the uneven gravel shoulder. The car lurching sickeningly before settling back down. I cursed, nursing a scraped hand. Sweat poured down my face, stinging my eyes. After half an hour of fruitless, exhausting effort, the lug nuts hadn't budged. The jack looked precarious, and the heat was becoming dangerous. Dehydration was setting in. Pip looked pale, her head pounding. I could see it in her eyes. "We have to walk," she said finally. "Back the way we came. Maybe someone will pass." I looked down the shimmering, empty ribbon of road behind us, then ahead into the haze. No, the map showed there was supposed to be a junction, maybe some kind of service station a few miles ahead. It's gotta be closer than going back. Reluctantly, Pip agreed. We took what little water we had left and started walking east into the deepening afternoon heat. The silence of the desert pressed in again, broken only by our footsteps on the gravel shoulder and our own ragged breathing. The heat was an entity, pressing down, leaching moisture, playing tricks on my eyes. Distant shapes resolved into heat-warped Joshua trees or odd rock formations, only to be dissolved back into ambiguity as we drew closer. That sickly sweet coppery smell seemed to linger in the air, carried on the faint, hot breeze. After what felt like an eternity, I pointed. "Look." Maybe a half-mile off the road, almost hidden in a dip in the terrain, stood a structure. A low, dilapidated building, perhaps an old abandoned gas station or homestead. It looked derelict, windows boarded up or smashed, wood bleached gray by sun. But it was something. Hope, desperate and fragile, flickered in my chest. We left the relative safety of the road, pushing through a brittle, thorny scrub towards the building. As we got closer, the smell intensified. The air grew thick with the buzzing of flies, not just a few, but swarms, coating the southern wall of the building like a shimmering black shroud. The front door hung open, skewed on broken hinges. Hesitantly, I pushed it further. Darkness lay within, blessedly cool, but carrying an almost unbearable stench of decay and ammonia. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shallowed by the gloom. No answer. We stepped inside, blinking as our eyes adjusted. It looked like it had once been a small store or garage. Empty shelves lined the walls, coated in dust and grime. The floor was littered with debris, old tire, rusted tools, unidentifiable junk. But in the center of the room, something was horribly wrong. A dark, sticky pool stained the concrete floor, glistening faintly in the dim light filtering through the cracks in the boarded windows. Flies crawled sluggishly over the surface. Scattered around it were crude, almost childlike drawings scratched into the dust and grime. Repeating spirals, jagged lines, and what looked disturbingly like wide-open eyes. Pip gagged, stumbling back towards the doorway, hands covering her mouth. I took another step forward, phone out, using its weak flashlight beam. I illuminated a workbench against the far wall. More stains. Rusted tools laid scattered, but among them was something that wasn't a tool. A pair of pliers, heavy-duty, laid coated in the same dark drying substance on the floor. Clamped tightly in their jaws was a tooth, a large, human-looking molar, drilling a shred of pinkish tissue. I recoiled, flashlight beam dancing wildly. I caught something else in the corner, a pile of tattered clothing, jeans and a faded t-shirt, stiff with the same dark stain. Beside it, a single hiking boot laying on its side. It looked relatively new. The oppressive dread that had been building all day coalesced into raw, sickening terror inside me. This wasn't just abandonment. Something violent, something awful had happened here, recently. A floorboard creaked upstairs. We both froze, hearts hammering against our ribs. I didn't realize there was an upstairs. The sound hadn't come from the wind or the settling of the old structure. It was deliberate. A slow, heavy scrape followed by another creak. "We need to go," Pip whispered, her voice trembling uncontrollably. "Rook, now." I didn't need convincing. Backing slowly towards the door, I kept the weak flashlight beam aimed towards the dark stairwell I hadn't noticed before, tucked away in the corner. Nothing moved, but the feeling of being watched was intense, suffocating. We burst back into the blinding, brutal sunlight, the horrific stench clinging to us. We didn't look back, scrambling through the scrub, thorns tearing at our clothes and skin, desperate to reach the road. Behind us from the dark doorway of the derelict building, a shape emerged. Tall, gaunt, silhouetted against the interior gloom. It moved with a strange, halting gait, head cocked. It didn't run. It simply began to walk, deliberately onto the same shimmering asphalt, heading east, following the path we had taken. Pip and I stumbled back onto the road, gasping for air, fear a cold knot in my stomach. I risked a glance. My stomach hitched. Far down the road, a lone figure was visible, distorted by the heat haze, but unmistakably following. It wasn't running, wasn't rushing, just walking, steadily, patiently, stalking. Panic propelled us forward. We half walked, half ran, stumbling on the uneven shoulder. Pip sobbed quietly, fear and exhaustion overwhelming her. I grabbed her hand, pulling her along. The sun was beginning to dip towards the horizon, painting the sky in bloody streaks of orange and purple, offering no comfort, only the promise of encroaching darkness. Every few minutes, I looked back. The figure was still there, always the same distance behind, it seemed, matching our pace, a patient predator. Darkness fell quickly, the desert chill replacing the oppressive heat. The landscape became a terrifying void, the only reality the rough asphalt under our worn shoes and the sound of our own desperate breathing. We couldn't see the figure anymore, but we could feel it. The vast silence seemed to amplify imagined sounds, the crunch of gravel behind us, a low chuckle carried in the wind. Then headlights, far down the road ahead. A pair of bright lights appeared, growing steadily larger. Salvation. Hope surged, raw and painful. I waved my arms frantically, Pip crying out beside me. The vehicle slowed as it approached, its beams pinning us like terrified animals. It wasn't a car, it was an old battered pickup truck, rust-eaten and primer gray, with only one functioning headlight. It pulled alongside us, rolling to a stop with a protesting squeal of brakes. The passenger window rolled down with a slow electric whine. We couldn't see the driver clearly in the gloom, just a silhouette.
Need some help?
A voice rasped low and guttural. Relief washed over me, so potent it almost buckled my knees. Yes, oh God, yes. Our car broke down miles back. The driver shifted, leaning slightly into the faint light of the dashboard. My words died in my throat. The man's face was gaunt. I sunk deep in shadow. But it was a smile that stopped my heart. Wide, unnatural, revealing gums stained almost black with teeth that were filed into sharp points. In the truck bed behind him, visible in the faint taillight glow, lay a jumble of rusted tools, rope, and dark-stained canvas tarps. That same sickly sweet coppery smell wafted from the cab. The man's smile widened, a rictus of pure malice in the dark.
Get in. It's a long way from anywhere from here.
Behind us, down the dark road, we heard it. The soft, steady crunch of footsteps on gravel drawing closer. Closer. My mind screamed. Two choices, both impossible. Get in the truck with this thing, the smiling nightmare who smelled of death and whose truck bed looked like a mobile slaughterhouse, or turn and face whatever relentless horror was patiently stalking us through the desert darkness. The thing that had emerged from the blood-soaked building. Devil ahead or devil behind. There was no sanity left here, only survival. Measured in seconds, the driver's eyes glinted, waiting. The footsteps behind us didn't slow. What happened is fragmented, a blur of sheer panic. I remember shoving Pip maybe towards the truck, maybe away. I don't know. A yell, hers or mine, the truck door opening or maybe slamming shut. Running, stumbling into the pitch-black desert, thorns ripping at me, the crunching sound seeming to come from everywhere at once. Falling hard, the impact knocking the wind out of me. The truck's single headlight beam swept wildly across the scrub, then vanished. Silence, punctuated only by the frantic hammering of my heart with a thin, high-pitched ringing in my ears. I called Pip's name over and over until my voice was gone, raw and useless. They found me days later, miles from the road, severely dehydrated, babbling incoherently about filed teeth and things that walk in the dark. Pip wasn't with me. The authorities grilled me for hours, not just once, over and over. I told them everything, about the building, the footsteps, the man in the truck, every awful detail, but they didn't buy it. Said my story had too many gaps. They said it was the heat, dehydration, guilt, that I'd gotten lost and panicked, that I'd left her out there, alone or worse. They used her real name in the reports. I won't use it here. They never found a body, no blood, nothing definitive. Just my vehicle baking under the desert sun with the door still hanging open and the trunk half latched. There wasn't enough evidence to charge me with anything, so they didn't. But that doesn't matter. I don't care what they think. I just want Pip back.
You can almost feel the heat off that one, can't you? The kind that dries your mouth, makes your skin itch, and reminds you there are far worse things than dehydration out there in the dust. Rook made it out. But Pip, have you ever taken a wrong turn on a road trip? A bad exit? A stretch of road that just didn't feel right? Tell us your tale in the comments. Like the video to help more lost souls find their way here. Subscribe on YouTube so you don't miss the next nightmare. And join the conversation on Instagram. Now, keep your flashlight steady because we're diving back in. Some road trips are about ghosts, but what this ghost hunting crew found was something far worse than they had anticipated.
We Were Never Supposed to Find Her by Dylan V. We joked that if we ever did find a real ghost, we'd probably shit ourselves and quit. That was the vibe of our channel. Scared dudes in abandoned places, chasing shadows or clicks. None of us were believers really, but we were good at making people believe that we were. The team was me, Emmett, and Charlie. We'd been filming since college. Urban exploration with a paranormal twist. Charlie handled cameras and editing. Emmett did most of the on-screen narration, and I played skeptic. It worked. Our sub counts were climbing. We even got a couple of sponsors who didn't seem to care that we faked most of it. So when a fan emailed us a pen drop of an old bottling plant just outside of Knoxville, we added it to our map. Hell yeah. The message just said, go before it's torn down. The basement is the worst part. That was enough bait for us. We rolled in late, as usual, just before 2 a.m. The building looked like every other southern corpse of industry. Rusted signage, caved-in roof, chain-link fence half ripped open like something wanted to get in. We parked on the gravel shoulder and geared up. 2 shoulder rigs, mics, infrared cam, spare batteries, no cell signal, but we'd expected that. We opened the fence and climbed through. The first 30 minutes were standard. Dusty offices, graffiti, some metal clanging that sounded dramatic, but was probably just a raccoon. Charlie kept getting us to play it up. Say something about the air being thick, or like angry spirits, or whatever. We laughed, but Emmett obliged. That was the bit. We found the stairwell. It was behind a bent utility door in the back of what must have been the bottling floor. Everything down there was pitch. Concrete steps, water-stained walls, and the smell like bleach or rot. We assumed mold. Jesus, Charlie said, coughing. You sure this isn't toxic? I'll give it 5 minutes, I said. And then I'm out. We hit the bottom of the stairs and Emmett started one of his rehearsed intros. Something like, you can feel the presence down here. Something doesn't want us here. Classic crap. Then the flashlight caught something in the corner. At first we thought it was a mannequin. Posed weird, crumpled near a collapsing shelving unit. But then Charlie moved closer. He let out this awful, dry gasp and dropped the camera. It was a woman, face down, arms twisted behind her like she'd fallen trying to get away. Her legs were bare, shirt torn, blood soaked into the floor and caked into the side of her hair. I'll never forget how silent the room got. No one moved, not even Emmett, who never shut up. I called out. I don't even know why. I just needed her to be alive. Something in me thought maybe it was one of those real deal viral stunts. Maybe we were being punked. Then Charlie whispered, look at her neck. There were ligature marks, deep ones. Rope maybe? I think I mumbled, we need to leave. But no one moved until we heard the sound behind the shelves. It wasn't an animal, it was footsteps. Slow, wet. Charlie grabbed the flashlight, swept it past the wall and caught someone standing just out of reach. A man, shaved head, wearing dark clothes. Bare feet, just watching. Then he stepped back into the dark. We ran. No outro, no gear check, just raw panic. I tripped halfway up the stairs and scraped my palms, catching myself. Charlie didn't even wait. He was already through the fence. Emmett was yelling about the van doors, the keys. I remember turning around once, just to make sure the guy wasn't behind us. He wasn't. But the basement door was closed again. Quietly. Like it had never been open. We called the cops as soon as we got service. Used a gas station phone 20 miles out. Apparently, someone else had reported screams 2 nights prior, but they hadn't found anything. When we followed up a week later, they wouldn't tell us anything, just confirmed a body was recovered. That was it. We never posted the footage. Charlie quit editing altogether. Emmett hasn't replied to our group texts since that night. I still check the news, expecting to see that guy's face. Maybe I already have. You ever get that feeling like you have seen someone before, but you can't place where? I still see her in the dark sometimes. Not a ghost, just the memory of her. Cold, face down, alone, and the way her blood soaked the concrete like it belonged there.
They went looking for ghosts and found the dead. There's no ghost edit for that kind of terror. That's not haunted, that's hunted. Don't blink now. Our final stop tonight is a tour van tearing through back roads, bass still ringing in their ears, when something started following.
The Rest Stop Setlist by Alex V. Drums. Alright, I'll be straight with you. I don't do ghost stories. I don't buy it. Never have. I've toured with weirdos, crashed in sketchy basements, pissed behind gas stations with no doors. Creepy's just part of the job. But that night, that Little Rock to Jonesboro run, yeah, that got under my skin. We just wrapped the set, solid show. Some dude tried to walk off with one of my pedals. First clue the night was going to be off, but we got it back. Loaded the van and hit the road. I was riding shotgun. Logan was driving. Josh was in the back with his usual junk food buffet, and Chris was doing a silent brooding poet thing like always. We stop at the gas station. Total dump, lit up like a bug zapper in the middle of nowhere, and somehow still felt dark. I get out, walk in, and the vibe's instantly off. Cashier didn't say a word, not even a head nod, just stood there, staring like someone unplugged his brain. And there's a guy in the back aisle, facing the wall. At first I figured, meth head. Or passed out, standing up. Either way, not my problem. I grab my usual coffee, whatever energy drink won't kill me that night, and we bounce. As soon as we pull out, Logan goes stiff. I'm looking at him like, what? Then Josh says, that guy's eyes were all wrong. I roll mine. Probably high as hell, I muttered. Because seriously, what else is new? Then we hit this detour, some wreck up ahead, so the GPS sent us down what I swear was a glorified deer path. Trees closing in on both sides, no streetlights, no signs, not even a mailbox. Then headlights appear behind us. No big deal, happens all the time, right? But they don't pass. They don't drop back either. They just hover behind us, staying perfectly in sync. I glance in the side mirror. That's weird, I say out loud. Not like I want to make it a thing, just feels weird. Logan's gripping the wheel tighter now. Josh stops chewing. Chris, he doesn't say a word, just watches the mirror like it's a horror movie. Then Logan spots a rest area, if you can even call it that, a busted parking loop with a crumbling bathroom shack and one sad-looking picnic table covered in graffiti. He pulls in, says he wants to let the car pass, but it doesn't. It follows us in. Then the lights go off. Now, look, I've seen people try to mess with vans. We've had stuff thrown at us, been followed before, our headgear stolen. But this felt different. This didn't feel like a person trying to scare us. It felt like something trying to decide what we were. And then we hear it. Footsteps, crunching gravel, coming up slow. I feel my heart skip. Not a metaphor, it actually skipped. Logan tries to start the van. Click, click. Dead. No one says anything. Josh grabs the tire iron like it's gonna help. Then the guy appears, right in the driver's side window. Doesn't wave, just breathes. One long exhale. Fog on the glass. Then tap. A one-knuckle knock. Logan looks, so does Chris. Me? I'm still holding on to logic. Still thinking maybe it's just some lunatic messing with us. But then his face shifts into view. The smile wasn't right. Too wide, too calm. Then his lips move just once, like he's saying a name. Chris whispers, "He said Logan." And right then, the van starts. Like that. We peel out, doors swing open, something hits the road behind us. I think it was one of my cymbal cases. Didn't care, never looked back. We didn't talk much after that. Next morning, over pancakes we didn't eat, Chris asks, "You all heard that, right?" I didn't answer because, yeah, I did hear it. but not with my ears. More like I knew what he said without actually hearing it. That doesn't make sense, I know, and I hate that it doesn't. And here's what really messes me up. I went back over the footage from our Little Rock set. At the very end, last song, you can see him. Back of the room, still as stone. Everyone's moving, headbanging, singing, and there he is, just standing there watching us. I don't know who he was. I don't know what he wanted, but I'm done saying it wasn't real.
Thanks for traveling with us through the dark. If you made it this far, hit that like button. It's the best way to keep this channel alive and screaming. Drop your own terrifying road trip stories in the comments. We do read them. Subscribe here on YouTube, follow us on Instagram and Spotify, and come say hello over on X. The glow only gets brighter when you share your darkness. Until next time, check out our other episodes if you haven't already. One of them might just hit a little too close to home. We will see you next time, past the pumpkin's glow. YouTube at Past the Pumpkin's Glow. Instagram at PTPGLOW Official. Twitter PTP Glow Official. Spotify Past the Pumpkin's Glow.